So, summary of tonight, fairly dreary overall. Overall bland, and a couple of good speeches. Joe Crowley gave us a good speech. Congressman talked about 9/11 and how Hillary Clinton did some tangible things to help the victims of 9/11, and talked about not only the political fights she had to get more money to New York, but also talked about some of the personal aspects. A woman who was injured in 9/11, terribly injured in 9/11, talked about how Hillary Clinton came to her bedside and then stayed with her throughout the rest of those years for 15 years and would check back in with her, humanized her in a nice way. And then Joe Crowley turned to Trump and how he tried to get $150,000 of the 9/11 money for himself that were supposed to go to mom and pop stores. He's such a bad guy.
That was stores that were actually damaged.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was the most powerful part of this any speech that was given tonight, to be completely honest with you. I think that, demonstrating that Donald Trump, considering the fact that he brags about how wealthy he is willing to take $150,000 from people who are supposed to get that money because they were victims of 9/11, just shows you how deplorable he is.
They need an attack ad that just makes that case out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then Howard Dean had a funny moment at the end of his speech where he listed a bunch of states. I forget exactly which ones. We're going to North Carolina. We're going to Iowa. We're going to take back the White House. So, making fun of himself. It was a nice little moment. So, yes.
No, I gotta say, I thought when Barbara Boxer, she just took the reins and ran with it. And the way she hit everything, but she didn't even notice she was reading. It was great. I love it.
All right. Now, if you didn't watch it, you might think that Jimmy was being serious. He most certainly is not. She looked like she was reading the prompter the whole time. Totally uninteresting, bland. Klobuchar could have done something. Senator from Minnesota, kind of bland. So it's really, we've already talked about it too much because not much happened until Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton was the main event here tonight, obviously, other than the protests, which we talked about at length in other videos.
And the mothers of the movement was a nice moment. When they brought the mothers of those who'd been killed.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That was a good moment.
So unfortunately, I was actually looking forward to hearing them speak. And while they were speaking, the protests broke out. So we tried to cover both. And from what I heard, it was an important moment in this convention because, if you want to compare and contrast the RNC and the DNC, the RNC demonized these women who have lost their sons due to police brutality, demonize them as criminals, where are the fathers, you hear that kind of stuff. And then here at the DNC, they provided a platform for them to speak out and talk about these issues. So I think that that's important to really point out.
So now, at the same time, I know it's a convention and I know it's to help support Hillary Clinton, but they would talk about their pain and they would talk about what went wrong. And I was like, that's really important for Americans to hear. So I love that they brought them on. But then they would turn to how Hillary Clinton is great. And I'm like,
yeah,
I just don't see how those things are connected. And that part of it made me a little uncomfortable. Okay, but let's get to the main event. Bill Clinton. He was folksy as all hell. I mean, as usual. Then, we bought this little house and I saw this young girl. She had the big glasses and I went up to her and she came to me and said, "Don't stare, you perv." And then I said, "Okay, you caught me. You caught me. I was staring." Right? So he told all these stories about how when they met. Okay, good. When they met, that's cute. Makes you root for her and makes her seem something different than what you always see on TV, whether she's being attacked or not, which is tough, right? Now, the conservatives will say, "Oh, she's manipulative and la la la," all these terrible things about her, and a lot of her supporters will say she's tough, but he presented a feminine side of her. And why he was attracted to her, and why he cared about her, and why she was this magnetic personality. So that was the first part. I thought he did a great job with that. Then,
can I just interrupt you for half a second? You just said something that struck a nerve with me, right? You mentioned, the feminine side of her. And that shows you that we still have some portion of the electorate that expects a woman to be feminine and light and sweet and this, that when people talk about Hillary Clinton being attacked for being a woman, those are the only arguments that I think are warranted, right? I don't think that she needs to be portrayed as feminine to the electorate. But unfortunately, there's still some portion of America that wants that. I think it's important to humanize her. And
that's what I think.
Yeah, I think humanizing her is important. But trying to emphasize her femininity is, in my opinion, it should be irrelevant. But unfortunately,
Of course
it's
you
not.
think
Well,
that. You're a girl.
I am a girl, and I just, I want to say, hey, she's a boss, and it's okay to be a boss. You don't have to be feminine.
Well, I think that I might have stated it wrong in a sense, right? Because, and for all the same unconscious biases that I grew up with, we all grew up with, because what I meant to say is her softer side.
Okay, that's better, yeah.
Right, because her feminine side could be soft and strong.
And some men can be soft.
That's right. Okay, don't make me make jokes.
Okay.
Anyway, so, but that soft side of her that, that had the romance and they moved in their first house and they had Chelsea and how much she cared about Chelsea. Now you might think it's hokey, but it was well delivered, and you got to get a good sense of the side of Hillary you don't often see.
Yeah.
Okay, now the second part of the speech was all the wonderful things she did before the age of 30, which were really impressive. So, taking care of migrant kids and then going to help desegregate housing. And the list went on and on and on and on. And I do believe that. I believe she worked on all those things. He fast forwarded after 30 because then the rest of it is the Walmart board and then we begin to realize that working with corporations gets you elected to the governorship better, and so they start forming practical alliances, right, and start taking money, yada yada. But give her credit, when she was young and when she didn't have to do all that stuff, she did really, put in a lot of hard work helping people.
Well,
so you should give her that credit.
And the reason I think it matters is that they've been saying this entire time, well, she's been fighting her whole life for kids and women. That's what they always say. But it's easy when they don't provide any details of it or any evidence any farther back than, well, she worked on Hillary Care, which you can say, well, but we didn't actually get Hillary Care, and that was itself decades ago. When you actually fill out the details, it sounds a lot better. And it would be easy to then say, well, look, a lot of people who want to get into politics someday will do stuff while they're growing up. But at a certain point, if you do it for enough decades, it doesn't really matter if you were doing it to be callous. If you did all that work and you helped a lot of people, that is worth something regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point, like I said, he started to speed up a little bit, and he skipped over all the things
Thank
that
God.
he didn't want to talk about. So she becomes a senator and helps in 9/11. We skip over the Iraq War.
wait.
Yeah.
We fast forward.
The 90s.
But how she became a senator was interesting. It never dawned on her to try to be a senator from New
Yes.
York, even though they wanted to move there for absolutely no reason. And there was another politician who suggested it to Hillary. And I was like, I knew it. I knew they didn't think of it themselves, and I knew it was somebody else who suggested it.
It was that transition and that she had to be so convinced to become Secretary of State. Where it's like, no, we don't believe that.
No,
I'm not
we all
saying
know-
that she didn't have any inner turmoil about it, because even if she's just a shrewd politician thinking about her future, moving to New York to try to fill this seat, well, there's considerations of how strong is the opposition going to be? Are they going to paint me as a carpetbagger? You can have even just pragmatic concerns about it. And the same for moving to Secretary of State. You already have a position as a senator. Should you move? Yes. Should you do another term as senator and then run? There can be those concerns. But don't pretend that she wasn't thinking about her future while she was doing it. She clearly was.
So that part of his speech almost ruined an otherwise really good speech, because it made you question everything else he was saying. Because as we're doing the live play-by-play, I mean, I shouted out during the New York part. You did, during the Secretary of State, and Jimmy did throughout, right? but because we know for a fact, and I know from even more so, anyway, I'll leave it at that, of course it was a political calculation to go and run for Senate in New York, an open seat in an important state. Robert Kennedy did the same thing. The idea that she was like, oh, we're in New York. Hey, Bill. Hey, did you know somebody else suggested I should run for Senate? I hadn't thought of that. No. That is such an obvious, blatant, gigantic lie.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder if you guys really did buy that house and she really did help migrant children. Right? Don't do that, because you're going to ruin the rest of the story, because we all know that part isn't true.
What I don't get is why it's so important to pretend like, they really she felt pressure to do it. She wasn't really sure if she wanted. Just admit you wanted to do it. Admit
Well, we know why.
that was your ambition. That's what you wanted to do. You wanted to serve the people of New York. Frame it that way. I don't know why it's always like, no, I didn't want to, but the people wanted me. Like, it seems so fake and disingenuous. And you're right. It discredits, or it could potentially discredit other, things that he mentions in the speech that she achieved. But look, I actually disagree with you. I don't think that the whole speech was good up until that point. I think that he focused way too much on hokey little details of their lives that I'm not even sure I believe, right? Don't get me wrong. I want him to talk about personal things. I want him to humanize her. I think that's incredibly important. But it came off as extremely fake to me. And the more he got into like little details about, the paper liner in the drawers and this and that, I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, you want to talk about the first time you met her and what it was like and the conversation you had. That's cool. I was into it. But when he got into like little specifics about, and then we decided to buy a house, and then 2 days later we bought that house.
Yeah.
That rubbed me the wrong way, right? Because I'm like,
That's specific.
really?
To you,
I know it's specific to me, but I'm like,
And then they didn't
you
get a
guys
ticket when they
decided you
parked
wanted to buy a house, and then 2 days later, voila, we have
She
our
didn't win
house.
that comedy award. I was going nuts.
Yeah. Here,
She didn't win a comedy award. I couldn't believe it.
I think the reason that
You guys
he
might be
needed-
taking it a little personally here, guys.
Maybe.
I think the reason he needed to do that was beyond just humanizing someone who's seen as hard and calculating and cold. It's that everybody sees her obviously as connected to him. They have been for a very long time. And when you think about her and him, what do you naturally think about? Maybe, best case scenario, you just think of her as first lady with him. But you probably think about the latter part of the 90s and then their turmoil and her sticking with him, and you question why. So he wants to put a whole lot of other contextual images in your mind. So when you think of them, you think of everything from the beginning of when they started dating on through all the decisions that were made moving around the country. They're not just that period in the 90s. They are a relationship that's been ongoing.
You know what I would do if I were Bill Clinton, and what I think would be way more effective? I would talk about how much of a role she played in your presidency. How many times you turned to her for advice, right? Whether it actually happened or not, I think that would be more effective, right? Because people, for better or worse, and Bill Clinton had some serious issues during his presidency. I definitely admit that. But he does have, there are Democrats, a huge majority of Democrats, I think, that thought he was a good president, right? And so talking about how she played a role in your decisions, I think would be more effective than talking about the little house you bought wherever
On the prairie.
2 days after you decided you wanted to buy it.
I agree that it was John that the framing is important and to get you to think about Hillary in a different way. That's why I really liked the first part of the speech. I do agree with, I actually said it should have been longer when we were watching it because Bill Clinton's not known for long speeches. He could have spent 5 minutes talking about his administration, creating the 23 million jobs and all the positive stats. At least give me those real quick and give me one or two stories about how Hillary Clinton helped in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could have done that. And give me a couple of minutes on why Trump's such a bad guy, because he's great at shredding his opponents. Bill Clinton is. And no one's touched Donald Trump tonight. I mean, other than Crowley, they barely laid a glove on him. And Clinton is good at that. Bill Clinton is. I wish he had done that a little bit. I thought that was a little lacking. But can we keep saying about how he's humanizing her. And we said that a lot in the RNC too, about how his kids had to humanize Donald Trump. No one's ever said that Bernie Sanders needs to be humanized.
I know.
Because you know why? Because he's
Bill
already
Clinton, really.
human.
He's as human as you can get.
That's right. If we read his convention, would anybody be like, well, how are they going to humanize Bernie Sanders?
Remember they told that story about how he gave a shit about people when he was little.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He really did. He's so human.
It wouldn't have been amazing if one of the two parties had nominated a human. Anyway, but here we are, and so overall, I still like the speech for the reasons that John stated. I think that it helped to see that side of Hillary Clinton, and no one else could have given that perspective other than Bill Clinton. And making a candidate more likable is really, really important.
Yeah.
Okay. Having said that, this is 2 days of the convention that's done now. I'm now beginning to get significantly worried we're headed in the wrong direction. They got to turn around right away. you want to humanize Hillary Clinton, you want to tell the positive stories about Hillary Clinton, you want to talk about African Americans and et cetera, that's great. But you also have to do something else.
Okay.
So now the other thing they have to do at the convention is attack Donald Trump. It's a target-rich environment. Stop being so like hope and lovely and Hillary is great and she does liner paper. Let's go up and at him. Hit him hard. Start dropping bombs right now because you're flirting with being a John Kerry convention here. Where John Kerry's the only person who didn't get a bump from his convention. The reason is they convinced themselves that they should be nice to George Bush and only tell a positive story about John Kerry and not hit George Bush because we were in the middle of a war. Because that's what Rush Limbaugh told them to do. They said, oh, you better not hit the president in the middle of a war. And they listened to him like idiots. And I came out of that convention with my hair on fire. Oh, no, he's going to lose. He didn't say anything wrong about Bush, and he's done terrible things. And Donald Trump is an even bigger target than George W. Bush. Hurry up. The next 2 nights should be at least 60% telling us what a monster Donald Trump is. But I'm telling you, they're not going to do it.
No.
I'm worried they're not going to do it because they're soft.
They are soft, and
I
that's
think Obama will mock him.
A little bit, but
Yeah.
you know Obama, he'll do a snide joke here and a cute little thing there. I don't need cute. I need somebody to come out there and shred him.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're making another giant mistake that is related. If this election is about either one of those candidates, whoever this election is about, that side will lose. If it's about Hillary Clinton and her giant unfavorables, the Democrats will lose.
Yes.
If it's about Donald Trump and his giant unfavorables, the Republicans will lose.
Or his tiny hands.
Or his tiny hands.
Yeah.
For God's sake, hit him on the hands. Hit him on anything.
Talk about his dick.
Because the election...
No.
Don't do that. Okay.
Okay, not that then.
The election's got to be about the other person. Because you don't have a popular candidate. Both sides have a really unpopular candidate. Turn and talk about Trump.
One night should have been just about his hair. The next night should have been just about his first 2 marriages. They could have contrasted about how Bill and Hillary built a marriage. They had hard times. They stuck together because they know commitment and love is deeper than whatever. They could have said all that stuff. And Trump, he doesn't know love. He discards them one after another. Let's trade it in for a younger and better looking. You know, they got to do all that stuff, and they're not doing any of that stuff.
Good point.
No, but seriously, the first thing Jimmy said, hair plugs. The guy's got hair plugs. We know because remember in that famous divorce proceedings with Ivanka, with Ivana, Freudian slip, literally. Okay, it's the first literal Freudian slip. Anyway, so with Ivana, the reason he sexually assaulted her, and I'm being polite there,
That's polite.
is because she had suggested a doctor to him to put hair plugs in, and it really hurt him. And he's like, "Why did you do that to me?" And he struck out against her in his rage. So this pathetic guy with his hair plugs, and I'm not, look, you got hair plugs, God bless your heart. But it paints a picture of Donald Trump in the context of everything else he does. He's so insecure. Oh, I'm a billionaire, but I'm going to try to steal $150,000 that should go to 9/11 victims. Oh, I'm worth $10 billion, but I'm going to scam you for a nickel and a dime for Trump University. What a sad man.
I think his hair plugs speak for themselves. So
don't
no one needs to mention his hair plugs. If anything, I think no, do not mention his hair plugs. That's unnecessary.
No,
he
I
looks
would.
like a clown. By the way, you're supposedly a billionaire. You really can't afford decent hair plugs. Anyway,
seriously,
no kidding.
Okay, so who cares? Let's just move on from that.
So
Again, Jimmy said it perfectly. It's a target-rich environment.
I actually said that, but that's okay.
No, he said it. Did you say it? Did you say it?
Yeah.
Whatever. Jimmy, good job saying that.
Let's give him credit. I'll him a tweet that he gets the credit.
But Trump University, that was my favorite part of the first night, okay? When they were talking about Trump University, that
Bam.
I perked up because that's something that I think really speaks to people who already feel disenfranchised. Are you really going to elect a leader who's going to further take advantage of you, who's going to further screw you over?
I think I just pictured there's one image that they have to remind. You can put it in your ads, literal images. but you need to be able to picture Donald Trump sitting on his golden throne at the top of Trump Tower, laughing down at the common man as he rips him off time and time again. On 9/11 with Trump University, this rich fucking elitist in his golden palace at the top of a tower in New York City, laughing at you as he takes away your last dollars. That's what they need to drive into the head of every goddamn American.
You know what? I'm back to the hair plugs. Okay, and I'll tell you why.
Christ.
Every time you see a stupid
There are
fluffy...
good people with hair plugs.
I know there are. I know. But every time you see a stupid, fluffy orange hair, you're going to think of that story about the hair plugs and how mad he was at Ivana.
Yes.
And how he hit her and then he sexually assaulted her because he's so insecure. And every time he gets up on that podium, you're going to look at that hair and go, oh, this guy's pathetic. So, look, my point there obviously isn't the hair plugs. My point is you need a couple of badass dudes who don't mind getting dirty.
I'll do it.
You know, you need a guy, honestly, like, no, this is going to sound ridiculous, but like me. And I'll
You
tell
are unbearable.
I am.
You are literally the
I
most
am.
unbearable
Pause.
person.
Nobody thought there was any other thing coming after
Okay.
that pause.
No, but I'll tell you why.
Only you.
Only I alone can save this country. Okay, but no, I'll tell you why. Because other people are going to be too nice. I'm not trying to say that I would be effective at it, or I'm just saying I'm willing to go there. Whereas a lot of other people aren't going. So find someone. Is there anyone in the Democratic Party
Alan Grayson.
who does it? Like, because I don't care about my reputation.
Yeah.
They're all like, oh, wait, now I don't want to be uncivil and ruin my reputation.
I know.
Right? I need a couple of brawlers. Get me a lead pipe. Get me a blowtorch. Let's go to work on my homes. Okay, start with the hair plugs and work your way down.
You know who would be great? You know who would be great? Nina Turner, right? Except they just stripped her credentials. I just got a text from a delegate saying it's confirmed that
I
they
haven't
stripped
seen it
Nina's
confirmed, but I have
credentials.
heard that.
So she.
I've heard a lot of stuff that didn't end up being true. That's possibly true.
I just saying that's coming from a delegate. I haven't confirmed it.
That's a
Okay.
person.
Well, there are some people who know how to attack within the Democratic Party, and I would say, no matter what her current situation is, Nina Turner is one of them. And if they kicked her out of the building, that's not the right move. So,
You think she's going to be quiet now that she's outside the building? Right?
Yeah.
You don't
I
think
know,
she-
it's hilarious. I mean, and censorship does not work. The more you try to censor your opponents or people who disagree with you, the louder they're going to scream. So,
all right, let's talk about that for one last second here, and then we'll wrap up. So, guys, so tonight we had the protests, and we covered it for you guys. If you're watching live, youtube.com/TYT. We had every kind of coverage for you guys. We told you in the beginning of the night something might happen. It did happen, and then we covered the hell out of it for you. We hope that we did a good job for you guys on that. Now, but I want to tell you a little bit about the fallout, because so the protesters came in here. This is the media center, this big tent where all the media are, and they sat down and they did a silent protest for a while. Then they explained why they were here, and then they dissipated. It was very peaceful, very calm. And then one of the reasons that we didn't get a chance to explain before, but I really need you to know, is that Bernie Sanders has all these volunteers. It's very normal. All these campaigns have people who work for them. These are the super volunteers who work so hard for them throughout the entire campaign. And you get tickets for them, and they come in and they have credentials and stuff. And the first night, a bunch of them got rejected. And they were like, "What do you wait? We have credentials. What do you mean? What do you mean you're not letting us in?" So maybe it was a snafu, right? Mm-hmm. Tonight, all of them got rejected. And now one of the reports I heard, and Jordan Chariton was all over this, our reporter on the scene, he has great contacts with the protesters, with the Sanders supporters, etc., was that all 800 got rejected. And they didn't let them into the hall because they were worried about how they were going to act. Now, the Clinton camp will say, you see, we had protesters, we knew it. We were right to reject them. No, but part of the reason you had protesters is because you rejected them. And you covered up the signs, and you took away the Bernie signs, and unity, right? And when you have that kind of attitude, you bottle things up, and then they explode in unhealthy ways. Now, as it turns out, the protest I thought was great in that it didn't disturb the proceedings in there. Everybody got to make their speeches. Nobody's voice was drowned out. They simply came in here, made their point, and then they were done. I think you really couldn't have done a protest any calmer,
Right.
or effectively, because you got your point across and didn't bother anybody. But don't do that. Don't shut out these people. You need these people. And all you're doing is driving a bigger wedge. Jimmy just said that he heard from a delegate that Nina Turner was kicked out. I heard, it's more reporting from Jordan, that Nina Turner was set to introduce Bernie Sanders. But since Nina Turner was so tough on the Clinton people and had not endorsed Hillary Clinton yet, they said, no, you're not allowed to do it, and they had Keith Ellison do it instead. Now, let it go. Let it go. Who cares if Nina Turner endorses you? Look, I like Nina a lot, and she's a strong, strong voice. But there aren't 300 million Americans who know who Nina Turner is, know that she didn't endorse you, and think it's like a sign of weakness or something if you allow her on. That's not a thing.
I think they're more afraid of what she might say.
Yeah.
I know.
We just had Ted Cruz, after all, cause quite a problem.
I know, but even if she said something like that, you know what you did? You allowed a different voice on there.
And it makes you look
I'm not
strong,
saying
not
she should have
weak.
stopped her. I'm just saying I think that's why.
Right.
they
And
did
it's
it.
a pattern, and it's a pattern that the protesters are protesting against. And the pattern is whenever confronted with a problem, you move to the right and you institute right-wing tactics. They've already gotten in bed with Wall Street and big corporations. She's too much of a war hawk. And now they try to suppress rebellion, and this is what right-wingers would do. Fall in line, unity, shut up, squelch. It seems very antithetical to the lefty party. All this stuff seems very antithetical to the lefty party. And that's why these people are protesting, and exactly what you said. Maybe there wouldn't have been a protest if they let Nina Turner introduce them. Maybe there would have been a protest if they let all those 800 people in. Maybe if they would have gave him a shred of frickin' respect, like Bernie gave back to them. Maybe then we could have a unity party. But there isn't a unity party now. And you know what, Jack? They don't care because they don't think they need those people.
And so
There would have still been a protest.
No, I think there would have been. But think about how it would have gone instead. Because there would have been less people there. Because a lot of the guys I talked to, I wouldn't talk to them. I said, why are you here? What do you want? And so guys like, I had a Bernie sign. I came in all the way from the state of Washington, right? And all I wanted to do was put up my Bernie sign when we were doing the roll call. But no, they put up a giant Hillary sign right in front of us purposely to block all of our signs. Then I said, I'm going to join the protest. So now I heard like a half a dozen stories just like that. So the protest would have been smaller. And if they had done all those things, then people would turn around and go, look, they let Nina Turner speak. She even spoke out against them in this part and that part. And they let the 800 volunteers in, and they did all this. And then you still had 50 guys do a protest. And then everybody would have said, hey, guys, what are you protesting for? Come on, they've done enough. We would have said that.
Yes.
Because, and even so, I thought, I kept asking them, guys, but what do you want, right? And that part was disorganized. We called them out on that. So there's a better way, and it's inclusive, not exclusive. And so now I'm going to tell you something really minor, but it is, again, symbolic. When someone's giving a speech, they have a key line in a speech. They take that line and they give everybody a sign with that line in it, right? Love trumps hate. That was last night. There was another one from tonight during Bill Clinton's speech, etc. It seems so manufactured, which goes along with the context of all of this. Like, we have to have a really tight, well-produced show. And yeah, that's how you used to run things. But when I see that line that the guy just spoke, and you already made signs for it and gave it into people's hands and they waved it, it feels fake. The whole thing feels fake. Instead of organic, like, hey, man, we're excited and we want this. And we made my homemade sign.
Yeah.
And it said the wrong thing. But I was excited and I made a sign and I brought it from Washington or from Hawaii. Let me just hold the goddamn sign so I could be excited about this party. And instead, no, this is the sign we have manufactured. You hold a manufactured sign, and we have manufactured unity. That's the problem.
And you know what's cool? Is the WWE. People bring in their own goddamn signs, and they say whatever the hell they want. It becomes organic. If it was just 100 signs that said Stone Cold on them, they were handed to them, that's not cool. There's nothing cool about that.
Okay, well, we've said our piece. Let's see what they do over the next 2 days. God help us.
I think it's terrific. I'm voting for it.
All right, one more time, guys. Thank you to the members. And every time they thanked us, the protesters kept thanking us. They were taking selfies with me in the middle of the protest. Bless their hearts. But they shouldn't be thanking me. They should be thanking you because we couldn't do it without you guys. We're all the Young Turks. And guess what? Okay, where's the sign that says stronger together? We're stronger together. DYTnetwork.com/join. Much love, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
Bye.